Cursed am I to lead an army of the blind. They do not perceive that the angels are fleeing this realm, and the ones they find are merely trapped or lost. A great change is upon us. Withdraw from the field, my brothers. Some battles can only be won with words.
Enough of your idle speculation, Mephisto. I breached the fortress and saw it firsthand. The World Stone is gone. The angels I killed knew nothing about it. But since you are so perceptive, maybe you remember who else has been missing. Lilith. We must find her. Rip her limb from limb. Take the World Stone back.
You are all deceived, my brothers. A new age has already begun. Can you not sense them? Ugly creatures born in shadow. They feel terror, hatred, and the desire to destroy. Yes, but they are not ours yet. They will open their world to us very soon. An invitation we cannot refuse.
Pandemonium is the Alpha and the Omega of the eternal conflict. It lies at the center of all things, linking the realms of heaven and hell. Long ago, when the angels were young, the aspect of wisdom found the eye of Anu here. He named it the World Stone, and all of heaven swore to protect it. Pandemonium was destined to be our battlefield. It was formed in the chaos of the last struggle between the Diamond Warrior Anu and the Dragon Tathamet. Now eons of war have scarred every patch of ground. The cycle of victory and defeat is the foundation of our existence and the essence of the eternal conflict. As war raged through Pandemonium, the aspect of justice called for a fortress to be raised around the World Stone. We built a shining citadel, but in time it fell to the demons. It has since changed hands countless times, becoming a patchwork of angelic and demonic expression. The Pandemonium Fortress housed the World Stone for many years, until the angel Inarius and the demon Lilith stole it away. With its loss, there was nothing left to fight for, and the fortress has been abandoned since. Our time in this land has drawn to an end. For now.
Something now inhabits the fortress. I am certain of it. Long have I gazed upon its scarred facade, dreaming of the safe haven its walls offer. But it has changed. The vacant terraces have turned cold. I am so desperate to escape the demons. But whatever is in the fortress may be worse.
The Great Weapon was created in response to a siege on the Pandemonium Fortress by Kurikos, a demon lord who rode a monstrous siege beast. At great cost to ourselves, we channeled much energy into the Great Weapon, and succeeded in bringing down Kurikos and his mount. Upon his death, the demon was drawn inexplicably into the weapon, and it has been attacking us ever since.
The rockworm may very well be the ugliest creature ever to blight the world with its presence. Bereft of any features aside from its massive jaws, the rockworm appears to be a giant invertebrate. I should like to study it further, but its burrowing tendencies make it extraordinarily difficult to track.
During the Mage Clan Wars, the Viserai summoned giant demons to guard their estates. After years of patrolling the desert sands, the demons' hides became thick as stone and caked with grit. In the end, they have outlived their masters. Now, only the glowing runes on their skulls belie their true origins.
I would rather not discuss the sand wasp. These overgrown insects wouldn't be notable whatsoever if not for their exceptionally poisonous stings, which, alas, killed my young apprentice. I thought he would be more careful when I sent him to retrieve a sample from the hive, but his parents did not understand my perspective. Only the most talented mages can summon skeletal guardians. It takes great power to form these tall, slim constructs from their unstable reagents, and even more power to sustain them. In the hands of a master, however, the guardians can become powerful weapons capable of defending their posts until the end of time. The deserts of Kyrgyzstan are majestic, expansive, and full of stinging swarms of insects. They may seem a minor nuisance, but these vermin carry numerous strains of pestilence. One of them was trapped in my boot once, and my foot swelled up to the size of a melon before the infection cleared. What horrible creatures!
The accursed were created when a necrotic plague spread through Kyrgyzstan centuries ago. The infected watched in terror as their flesh blackened and died. The strongest medicines could not stop the decay. Eventually they fell into a dormant state, and their bodies were piled up in dark and forgotten places, where they could rest undisturbed.
Some time ago, I revealed that the Khazra, or goatmen, were originally humans until the Viserai corrupted them. For many years, these creatures were simple and lethargic. These days have ended. Khazra attacks are widely reported, and the number of fatalities is higher than anything in my records. Long ago, 5 clans of the Umbaru tribe left the Teganze and ventured north. After their transformation into Khazra, only a few elders were still able to use magic, and they passed it down to their cleverest children. These are the Khazra shaman, and they rank among the most dangerous of their race. Dear reader, I am Abd al-Hazir, adventurer, scholar, and researcher. I share my knowledge of this incredible world and its creatures through my insightful missives, often at grave risk to myself. Why, I was recently in Kanduras, where my tents were ransacked by vicious quill fiends. I was able to beat them off with a shoe, but a less bold man would have fared far worse.
I will never forget the first time I saw these horrors shambling out of the misty woods. Our loved ones, buried long ago, rose from their graves and began to attack the living. However, the risen dead were only the beginning.
Scavengers are ugly, pathetic creatures who survive off of carrion and corpses, too diseased to attract any other carnivores. I did once meet a raggedy fellow who claimed that he had trained one of the beasts to bring him large rats to eat. But I'm sure the story is utter nonsense.
During the last days of King Leoric's reign, even the skeletons of the ancient dead could not rest. They took up their broken armor and weapons once more, ready to cut down anything that yet drew breath. Though wasted and fragile, these creatures possess a twisted cleverness that makes them quite formidable.
The ubiquitous spider is one of the oldest and most adaptable creatures in the world. It also seems to have acquired an unfortunate susceptibility to magic. When exposed, the arachnids will increase dramatically in size and even cast spells. Due to this hazard, I recommend staying out of dark places whenever possible. Spiderlings alone may seem unthreatening, but their presence should be a warning for travelers. For wherever there are spiderlings, there will be matriarchs, and the fully grown arachnids are extremely protective of their young. The spiderlings themselves possess strong appetites, allowing them to do considerable harm to a cornered adventurer.
Rumor holds that Archbishop Lazarus loosed a silent terror in the caves near Leoric's manor before he died. He labored for weeks over a group of unusually large spiders. and many of his servants quietly disappeared during this time. The largest creature led the others into the caves. None who have ventured there have returned. The Zakarum high priests in Kurast proclaimed Leoric king of Kondurus many years ago. He ruled well until Diablo's influence drove him mad, and the loyal knight Lac-Danan was forced to slay him. Afterward, Diablo himself raised Leoric from the dead as the Skeleton King, until the monarch's son, Aiden, vanquished him.
Some devious little goblins have been robbing our merchants. When pursued, they simply open portals and disappear with the most aggravating chuckle. The peasantry seem to believe that the goblins serve a great demon lord known as Greed. And furthermore, that their portals lead to Greed's domain. A ludicrous notion, truly. The unburied are formed from human corpses that were flung into mass graves without a proper burial. This hideous amalgamation of bodies decomposes together into one being, bound by some foul magic. For all my knowledge, I could only flee from it, and I would expect any other sensible person to do the same. The wither moth is a curious phenomenon. It is tremendously large for an insect, and somehow its size allows it to expel a charging force when attacked. For this reason, few have survived to study it in great detail, including many notable academics. In fact, please do not inquire further upon this subject. I have heard the most ridiculous tales about travelers being ambushed by vicious trees. It is too much. Despite their names, the wood wraiths are not plants, but fully mobile beasts who have taken on the guise of foliage to ensnare their prey. Only a simpleton could be fooled by such a trick.
I, Deckard Cain, have spent many years traveling and writing about the strange creatures in our world, but the sight of the wretched mothers still haunts me. They are the remnants of Queen Asilla's slaughtered handmaidens who were twisted by foul magic. Now they feast upon cadavers and regurgitate them as newly formed, risen dead.
The time of my lord's true awakening is at hand. That fool Leoric was only able to resist him because he did not yet possess his full power. With the Queen dispatched as a traitor, I may now devote myself fully to preparing the boy for the presence of my master.
My name is Lac-Danan, and I am cursed. Once the captain of King Leoric's army, I lived only to honor my land and my king. No man has a greater love for his king than I had for mine, even as I drove my blade through his dark and corrupted heart. It was Lazarus, of that I am certain. He alone had the king's ear, and whispered dark and evil magics into it, instilling the notion of an imminent attack by Westmarch. Afraid to speak against the archbishop, the councillors nodded their empty heads in agreement, and sent us off to die. When we returned from our horrific defeat in Westmarch, my beloved king lost all pretense of sanity. He seethed with rage, spitting curses upon us as traitors. With great sorrow, I ran him through. I will forever live in anguish for my last attempt to honor my king. As we lay him to rest in his burial chamber, he manifested as a hideous skeletal demon. Gorash and my other knights were overcome at once, but I fought on. And now I wander, cursed by my once beloved king. Evil gnaws at my bones, and I cannot risk putting my beloved Tristram in danger should I fail to contain that which tears at me. I must venture down into the labyrinth to die alone.
There is chaos everywhere, and word in town is that Lac-Danan killed the king. If only this is true, perhaps our days and nights of living in terror are behind us now.
I can no longer deny the true nature of the evil that rises from the depths of the cathedral. It is almost too horrible to admit the truth of it. It is the Dark Lord of Terror, Diablo himself, who plagues us. The vile staff of Lazarus was brought to me today, confirming my suspicions. There is no longer any doubt that Lazarus kidnapped Albrecht, and perhaps even freed Diablo from his ancient prison. Who knows what further treachery he has planned?
Praise the powers that be. Griswold, bless his dear heart, risked everything to bring that dear boy home from the cathedral. Though he is troubled and moody now, I am certain it will pass, and he will once again be the sweet Wirt we all love.
I'm not quite sure what all the fuss is about. Few farmers turn up dead, and everyone goes running for the hills. I've lived off these lands for 20 years, and I have not seen any bloodthirsty monsters running about. No reason I should leave a perfectly good harvest.
For many years, villagers were too afraid to settle near the ruins of the cursed town Tristram. But as time went by, adventurers arrived to loot the old cathedral, and their business was profitable enough that New Tristram sprang up to accommodate them. Fewer travelers visit now, though, and the town is mostly populated by craftsmen and farmers.
Some devious little goblins have been robbing our merchants. When pursued, they simply open portals and disappear with the most aggravating chuckle. The peasantry seem to believe that the goblins serve a great demon lord known as Greed. And furthermore, that their portals lead to Greed's domain. A ludicrous notion, truly. The unburied are formed from human corpses that were flung into mass graves without a proper burial. This hideous amalgamation of bodies decomposes together into one being, bound by some foul magic. For all my knowledge, I could only flee from it, and I would expect any other sensible person to do the same. The wither moth is a curious phenomenon. It is tremendously large for an insect, and somehow its size allows it to expel a charging force when attacked. For this reason, few have survived to study it in great detail, including many notable academics. In fact, please do not inquire further upon this subject. I have heard the most ridiculous tales about travelers being ambushed by vicious trees. It is too much. Despite their names, the wood wraiths are not plants, but fully mobile beasts who have taken on the guise of foliage to ensnare their prey. Only a simpleton could be fooled by such a trick.
I, Deckard Cain, have spent many years traveling and writing about the strange creatures in our world, but the sight of the wretched mothers still haunts me. They are the remnants of Queen Asilla's slaughtered handmaidens who were twisted by foul magic. Now they feast upon cadavers and regurgitate them as newly formed, risen dead.
I have uncovered and obscured an ancient tome in whose pages is recorded an impossible tale. The secret history of a race called the Nephilim, gods by another name, and their ruined civilization in the West. If this is true, how could all signs of these Nephilim be lost, but for the record of this single tome? The Nephilim were not gods, but our own ancestors, gifted with long life, magic, and abilities far beyond ours. Yet they were still men. I wonder if these pages hold the key to unlock their powers once again. I will bring the light of Zakarum to the heathens. Here in the east the power of Zakarum wanes, but in the west it will rise, stronger and greater than ever. Yet I have another purpose. The lost Nephilim city of Corvus lies in the west. I will find it. We founded a settlement near the Western Sea. It will grow to be a great city in time. Now that my people are settled, I can begin my own search for the ruins of the Nephilim city, Corvus. The tome implied that it was near this very region. We have begun searching the marsh for the ruins of Corvus. This stinking, festering swamp is punctuated by worn blocks of stone. Perhaps these ancient sentinels are all that remain of the proud Nephilim city. No, there is more to be found. I know it. Last night, I found the ruined Nephilim city. When I stepped into the buried catacombs, I felt a stirring in my blood. And then a wondrous thing. A dim light began to glow all around me, not cast by any torch. It was as though the very stones acknowledged my presence. The Nephilim had such a strong connection to the light that it granted them powers far beyond our own. But I believe that through the light they can be reborn in us. Thus I have consecrated Westmarch, a shining beacon in the west. I have taken for my sigil the Wolf of Corvus, and proclaimed myself king. A decade later, the power of the Nephilim still escapes me. Something long ago stole it from them and keeps it hidden, even today. I have found mention of an artifact called the World Stone, hidden in the barbarian lands. Now that my son is born, I have rallied my banners to ride to war against them. Years on, the barbarians remain unconquered, and I am a man grown old and frail. My life has seen the founding of Westmarch and the discovery of the Nephilim ruins. But still, the deeper secrets elude me. I leave the task to my son, in whose blood shall carry forth the line of Nephilim kings.
My dearest Heydrich, do not feel despair, my love. You did everything you could. Our time together meant more than words can say. But in the end, fate is a cruel mistress. Your strength is needed to end the horrors that beset this world. My final wish is that you find your path. Love always. Mira.
This scabbard is a rare treasure. Its inscription reads Talek the Defender in archaic lettering. He was one of the ancients who guarded Mount Ariat until the shattering of the World Stone. A true warrior who gave his life to spare the world from the dark fate it has fallen to now.
I used to be one of them, ordinary, untouched, until her voice came to me. Then I knew how I must serve. I must kill the one who threatens my mistress and the dark power that created her. I have been chosen.
We should have known. The farmers left over a fortnight ago, and yet we stayed. Last night, we heard the beasts creeping closer. My husband left to investigate, and I haven't seen him since. All I have left are the things we made together. Hopefully, they are of more use to someone else.
The cold ground welcomes the foul bodies of these cruel men. They sought to prolong their lives through forbidden magic at great and cruel cost to others. Their evil fed on itself until it consumed them all, and they found themselves at the end of a hangman's rope.
I returned to Honduras after 20 years. The burden of countless failures and tragedies heaped upon my shoulders. Am I being punished for helping that stranger hunt the Dark Wanderer? I always thought Deckard Cain half a madman. But perhaps he was right. Perhaps he can banish the shadow hanging over my life.
While exploring a cave with hopes of finding hidden treasure, I came upon a most grisly sight. A heap of dead bodies. Unbelievably, as I was searching them for any items of value, they began to rise. I must tell them of this in New Tristram before it's too late.
We have come at last to Tristram's old cathedral. This is where Diablo, Lord of Terror, first corrupted mankind. This is where I may finally find the answers I seek. Leah worries after my safety, but I believe information vital to defeating the last lords of the burning hells can be found here. I wish that Leah could live a different life, a more normal life. But alas, such is not her fate. When I pass, there is none but her to continue my work, and the future of this world hangs in the balance.
Aiden came to me last night. I suspected what was lurking within his troubled heart. I consoled him as best I could. Regardless, wherever he's headed, hell will surely follow in his wake. The shadows close in on Tristram once again, but like Aiden, I'll be gone before they fall.
Ogden and his wife have offered to let me and grandmother continue to stay with them. I think we will, now that the troubles are over. I am still tormented by horrific nightmares. I keep hoping they will fade, but they seem to be getting stronger. To think I was once afraid of Adria. She is going to take me to Chaldeum with her soon. Chaldeum. I never thought to see it with my own eyes. Though it saddens me to leave Ogden and his wife, Adria assures me that she will find a cure for my nightmares.
We've been under siege for 6 days now. Uncle Deckard is still missing. Captain Rumford and the others are losing hope. I tell them not to lose faith, but if help doesn't arrive soon... A miracle has happened. A hero, like one out of Uncle Deckard's tales, appeared and saved us. I know in my heart that my uncle still lives, and I pray that the hero will bring him home safely.
Uncle Deckard is home, rescued from the clutches of the Skeleton King.
I'm so glad. But the Skeleton King, I thought he was a folktale. The idea of Mad King Leoric returning to torture this place. Hasn't Tristram suffered enough? I can hardly believe it, but the falling star is a man. When Uncle Deckard realized this, he was crushed. I know he was hoping for something more miraculous. Uncle Deckard believes the key to unlocking the stranger's memory is reassembling his sword. I wish I could say this was another of Uncle's crazy theories, but I can't deny that these ominous events are starting to really scare me. When we retrieved the stranger's second sword piece, Magda found us. She's always on our heels. Who is she? She claims to know my mother, but how could that be? Regardless, we must beat her to Wortham in the final piece of the sword. Uncle Deckard is gone forever. I remember the wonderful times we had together. Always off on another crazy quest. What will I do without him? He believed the stranger was an angel, but he is only a man. I always knew they were just stories. Uncle Deckard died for those stories.
Garm is the largest of Asmodan's sin lieutenants, and he possesses no less than 4 mouths. Though his voracious appetite is certainly his greatest weapon, his bile and, well, other noxious excretions are equally lethal. When last seen in battle, the Lord of Gluttony swallowed 6 angels whole, spears and all. Long ago, the heralds of pestilence were lesser demons who rebelled against Asmodan. The Lord of Sin vanquished them easily, but instead of slaying them, he granted each one a long arm, infested with a poison that could kill anything but Asmodan himself. The heralds have been plague-riddled menaces ever since. The Herodric scrolls describe hulking phase beasts as sin made flesh. Asmodan granted them great power, allowing the beasts to shift in and out of sight at will. It is believed that the Lord of Sin only looses the phase beasts against uncommonly clever enemies who cannot be bested with tooth and claw. The Siege Breaker is a monster of legends, of nightmares, and thin whispers in the dark. It is the most prized champion of the Demon Lords, because its massive size and strength could turn any battle in its favor. I wish I knew more, but alas, all who have seen it have perished. Soul Rippers are the bane of the living, creatures born of the endless malice churning within hell. Agile and swift, the Rippers cover ground quickly by latching onto prey with their enormous tongues, and then leaping on top of their victims. From this point, the Ripper cannot be deterred. It has begun to feast.
I once met a raving drunk who claimed he had wrestled with a succubus, a demonic creature that possesses the form and face of a beautiful woman. He said she cursed him and tore out the heart of his friend before he made a narrow escape. Really, young men are given to such exaggeration these days.
The tormented stingers may resemble giant scorpions, but in truth, they are molded from the bodies of human sacrifices. The demons twist their victims into the stingers' distinctive forms by slicing open their chests and viciously mutilating their legs. Maddened by pain, these creatures can poison their prey with a single strike.
"13th day of Lunasad, 1263, Anno Kyrgyzstani. The jailers burned runes into my flesh. They say all the torture and dark magic will turn us into demonic slaves for King Leoric. What foolish lies. 17th day of Lunasad. Oh, pain is terrible. I can't think. I'm so hungry. 20th day of Lunasad. Master, I hunger.
Master, feed me!
There is a new piece to the game. A girl named Leah. My spies tell me she is the child of the witch Adria, who is hiding in the deserts of Chaldeum. Bring this news to the Master at once.
In the eastern kingdom of Khezestan, I heard rumors of Zakharum warriors called Crusaders. While the natives were most reticent, I was able to deduce that this order was founded 200 years ago, just as Rakis took his army of paladins west. But these Crusaders went east on a very different mission. My studies indicate that a high-level cleric of the Zakharum named Akan began to sense the corruption that was eating away at the heart of his faith. He knew this corruption would eventually destroy his beloved church, and that he must take action. After much prayer, Akan hit upon the idea of an order of crusaders. Akan gathered the most devout, driven, and martial Zakharum adherents. He taught them to channel the power of light in the same way that the newly founded paladins were being trained. But these recruits, these crusaders, were given insight into the primal powers of Zakharum in a way no paladin ever was. When the Crusaders had learned all they could, Akan sent them out into the world, seeking a way to cleanse the corruption that coiled at the heart of the Zakharum faith. There was no clear goal for them to pursue, and some clerics claimed it was a fool's errand, that they could never succeed. But these Crusaders would not be deterred. The Crusaders swore an oath to dedicate their lives to the search. None believed that they would be the one to end the crusade by finding and cleansing the corruption. They believed the search ennobled them, that the discipline of their life and journey was the true goal. The Crusader was meant to find meaning in the quest itself. Each and every Crusader was a warrior of rare strength. They had mastered the power of light, of weapon and shield, and of self. Each was sworn to live as a Crusader and to die as one. 200 years ago, they took their apprentices and set out into the eastern swamplands. They were never heard from again. Until now. Rumors swirl that the Crusaders have returned, and that they mean to go to the west. But who are these tall, blonde warriors? They look nothing like the Crusaders who set out from Travincal 200 years ago.
and those who inhabit the ruins of that ancient city suspect trickery. I recently met a returning crusader, and now I understand. Each crusader took an apprentice. When a crusader fell, his apprentice would take up his armor, his place in the order, and even his very name. When the first generation of crusaders fell, their own apprentices took up their identities, and so it has continued for 200 years. Of the original 427 crusaders who disappeared into the east, 341 return. Do they still seek the redemption of their faith? How will they react to the destruction of the city that birthed their crusade? Will they continue west to the lands of Westmarch? What does their return portend?
We camp, lying in wait for a hero of incredible prowess. My gut churns with the suspicion that we are simply fodder. I have heard tales of this hero wading through our ranks, slaughtering us as if we were children. I will not sleep again tonight, I fear.
Attention, subjects of Emperor Hakan II. A trespasser has been sighted in the city sewers. Witnesses describe the suspect as a young woman in a crimson tunic. Reports indicate that she arrived in Chaldeum recently, along with a party of suspicious travelers. Any information leading to her immediate capture will be handsomely rewarded by His Eminence.
Chaldeum. Everything Uncle Deckard left me leads to this place. It's strange. I first met him here when I was only a child, and now his loss feels heavier than ever. He was right about everything all along. We have to stop Belial before it's too late. The city has many secrets, and I still remember most of them. I can get into Chaldeum through the sewers if I avoid the Imperial Guard. While I'm out, my friend has sworn to take down Magda. It won't bring Uncle Deckard back, but we'll all be relieved when she's gone.
After all this time, my mother is alive. I couldn't be happier, and yet it's still hard to accept that she never sent word to me or Uncle Deckard. She said that she wanted to keep me safe, but I just wish I'd known. Well, at least I have her now. My mother has been teaching me magic and how to control my power, but I feel like I'm constantly disappointing her. She says that I have a gift, but it doesn't feel that way. Maybe it will improve if I keep practicing. For now, we are getting closer to the Black Soul Stone, and that's what really matters. We have the Black Soul Stone at last, despite Zoltan Kull's betrayal. I always knew he couldn't be trusted. Fortunately, we were able to defeat him and retrieve the stone. I learned that my mother had secretly bound the fallen lords of Hell to it. I just wonder why she didn't tell me.
We were so sure we could beat whatever traps the ancients had laid for tomb robbers, but the dead bodies of my friends testify to the folly of our arrogance. I will be dead soon as well. Our greed was our downfall.
Though New Tristram and the fields surrounding it have been resettled over the years, the highlands remain empty save for the crumbling ruins of Leoric's old outposts. The king built more than one watchtower in his paranoia, but now they cannot even ward away goatmen and wild beasts. A tragedy, really.
My loutish companions have no curiosity about the Khazra. They're only interested in the bounty on their heads. But I am convinced the Khazra can be communicated with. It is dangerous, to be sure, but it is a risk I am willing to take.
These cowardly farmers have been leaving the fields for days now, but I'm not about to follow them. My home is here, and a few angry goatmen won't change that.
Everyone is dead. Billard, that damn fool, was killed trying to communicate with the Khazra, and then the cultists showed up. As soon as I saw them, I ran. I wanted no part of their dark magic. I heard the screams of my companions, but there was nothing I could do to help.
The local Khazra tribes have become a serious threat. They attack caravans and are moving into areas where they haven't been seen before. We need you to take care of this problem for us. will pay 25 gold pieces for every Khazra head you bring back.
Wanted. One relic, scarlet, roughly the size of a man's fist. It was stolen 2 months past during a deplorable theft from the Merchants Guild Bank. Those apprehended were not in possession of the item. The relic is greatly missed by its rightful owner, who offers a reward for its safe return.
The angel Iswal was once Tyrion's lieutenant, but he was captured by the enemy after an ill-advised assault upon the Hellforge. Iswal surrendered to demonic corruption and revealed the secrets of the Soulstones to the prime evils. Tyrion claimed that Iswal was slain years ago, but his replacement has never emerged from the Crystal Arch. My scroll has shown me many things, beginnings, ends, and the endless chains of circumstance that bind them. I see no sunrise without seeing its sunset, no budding flower without its wilted ruin, no event without its appropriate and inevitable consequence. But there is one thing I cannot see, the Nephilim. Angels and demons are bound to their natures. Demons are given to chaos and deceit. Angels to truth and order. That much is known. Some angels, like Inarius and Iswal, have fallen, but the seed of goodness remains within them, like a fading star in the lonely night. The Nephilim alone have choice. I know nothing of Nephilim. My duties leave me no time to watch them, and I have no desire to follow Tyrion on his troubled path. But if the threads of fate should bring them here, how enlightening it would be. These creatures dwell outside the Order. They cannot fathom the freedom they possess.
If you are reading this, my husband and I are both gone. We would like to be buried side by side, preferably in a sunny spot. Oh, and please don't bury my husband's sword with us. He won't need it anymore.
We are in agreement. Kul, the renegade, must be stopped. He seeks to duplicate the power of the stones and wield it for his own ends. He is obsessed with the powers of heaven and hell. Drawing their attention will only bring doom to us all. We set out in 1 week's time, into the desolate sands, to search for Kul's hidden archives. None of us have any idea what to expect. How far has Kul's madness driven him? How much power has he accumulated in his mad quest? I can only hope we are not too late. We found Kul's archives. They were strangely empty at first, but Kul laid traps everywhere, each step harder than the next. It was foolish to expect otherwise. Kul has prepared for many years for someone to come for him. Perhaps we are fools, and yet we must push on. Try as we might, Kul simply cannot be killed. His cursed blood sustains him. He bleeds sand and his laughter mocks us. There is only one course of action left to us. We will separate his body and his head, and hide the body within the Shadow Realm. We will seal the Shadow Locks with vials of his blood, and we will hide the blood in the desert under eternal guard. I can only hope that the world does not forget of Kul's evil, and his blood remains undisturbed beneath the shifting sands. Kul mocks my every step. I try to shut him out, but his chattering is ceaseless. He takes joy in taunting me. I will not rise to the bait. I will not give in to him. I long for the silence that will come once I secure his head away.
The human prisoners are panicking now. They must have noticed that fresh meat only comes after one of their number is dragged away, screaming. This will not hold. Slaughter the ones who starve themselves and feed them to their hungry friends. When those ones are fully stuffed, I will be ready to die.
We've reached Bastion's Keep, but holding the Black Soulstone together takes up all of my time now. Sometimes I think of the wounded soldiers and their families outside, but then my concentration fails and the spells weaken. I must stay focused and trust my friend to save the Keep and its people. The days are hard. If it weren't for my mother standing beside me, I don't know what I'd do. She even watches the stone for a few hours each night so I can rest. Sometimes I dream I'm in New Tristram with Uncle Deckard again, and it's hard to wake up after that. Adria tells me that our friend has beaten back Asmodan's armies, and the Keep is safe now. I almost can't believe it. The essences within the Soulstone grow angrier, fiercer. They are fighting against me every moment now, and their darkness creeps around the edges of my mind. I must remain strong. I thought I was going to die when I saw the demon's rage escape from the Soulstone. Tyrillin, my friend, fought them, but I couldn't help. It was like I was watching them through a haze. What is the Soulstone doing to me? Asmodan must die soon. Then I will be myself again.
Some time ago, I revealed that the Khazra, or goatmen, were originally humans until the Viserai corrupted them. For many years, these creatures were simple and lethargic. These days have ended. Khazra attacks are widely reported, and the number of fatalities is higher than anything in my records. Long ago, 5 clans of the Umbaru tribe left the Teganze and ventured north. After their transformation into Khazra, only a few elders were still able to use magic, and they passed it down to their cleverest children. These are the Khazra Shaman, and they rank among the most dangerous of their race. Dear reader, I am Abd al-Hazir, adventurer, scholar, and researcher. I share my knowledge of this incredible world and its creatures through my insightful missives, often at grave risk to myself. Why, I was recently in Kanduras, where my tents were ransacked by vicious quill fiends. I was able to beat them off with a shoe, but a less bold man would have fared far worse.
I will never forget the first time I saw these horrors shambling out of the misty woods. Our loved ones, buried long ago, rose from their graves and began to attack the living. However, the risen dead were only the beginning.
Scavengers are ugly, pathetic creatures who survive off of carrion and corpses, too diseased to attract any other carnivores. I did once meet a raggedy fellow who claimed that he had trained one of the beasts to bring him large rats to eat. But I'm sure the story is utter nonsense.
It is with some reluctance that I write on the 7 lords of hell, for they are the greatest of the demons, and even whispering their names seems to poison the air around me. They are divided into the lesser evils, Belial, Asmodan, Juriel, and Andariel, and the prime evils, Mephisto, Baal, and Diablo. Andariel was the only female evil. She aided the lesser evils for many years. but eventually she lost faith in their plots. 2 decades ago, she chose to help Diablo during his resurgence and seize the citadel of the Sightless Eye. Ultimately, she perished at the hands of brave heroes. The Valrus manuscript lists Asmodan as the best battlefield commander of all demons, having defeated the angels many times in the eternal conflict across Pandemonium and the primevals in the demonic civil war. If the Lord of Sin ever assaults our realm, we truly have much to fear. Baal was the most brash and reckless of the primevals. After the Dark Exile, he was contained within the Horodrim Tal Rasha and entombed. Centuries later, Diablo freed Baal, who then corrupted the World Stone to devastating effect for the barbarians who lived near Mount Arreat. The heroes killed Baal shortly afterward. Belial, Lord of Lies, is the most elusive of the 7 evils and is a master of deceit. It is said that he manipulated Asmodan into revolt against the primevals. This began the Burning Hell's civil war, which ended with the dark exile of the primevals to our mortal realm. Diablo was the youngest of the primevals, but I found him the most dangerous, for his power over terror left him incapable of feeling fear. Though he had easily possessed and corrupted many humans, Diablo's essence was finally trapped in a soul stone and banished to the unfathomable abyss 20 years ago. Duriel is the twin of Andariel. I believe that they conspired together to assist Diablo in releasing Mephisto and Baal, though they had both supported the lesser evils in the past. The Lord of Pain was found guarding Baal's prison, the tomb of Tal Rasha, when he was slain by heroes. The evil of Mephisto, Lord of Hatred, was so pervasive that even after he had been defeated and entombed in a soul stone, his demonic essence oozed upwards into Travancore and corrupted the Zakharum priests. Though he fell to the same heroes who killed his brothers, I fear for us should he ever return. Many centuries ago, King Corsic built Bastion's Keep to pen the barbarian threat in the north. After years of military disasters, the frustrated king led a large army out of the fortress and into the north to conquer the barbarians once and for all. Not one of them came back. I have been fortunate enough to learn much of the barbarians' complicated history in my time, yet the origins of these large, mighty warriors are hazy at best. Legend holds that they are the offspring of Bull Cathos, an ancient who embodied their ideals of strength, bravery, and courage. The children of Bull Cathos settled in the northern steppes, an area that is now known as the Dreadlands. Theirs was primarily a nomadic and tribal culture, though they had a few permanent settlements such as Cesseron and Harogoth. A group of revered former warriors known as the Elder Council ruled the barbarians. The barbarians have always defended their lands in the north from trespassers. They believe that it is their sacred charge to guard Mount Arreat and the World Stone within it from the outside world. Unfortunately, their battle prowess and tenacity have been misinterpreted as bloodthirst and territorial savagery by soldiers in Westmarch. 20 years ago, Baal was loosed upon the world. He besieged the barbarian capital of Cesseron and used treachery to access the World Stone Chamber, circumventing the 3 ancient guardians, Talik, Modok, and Korlik. In the end, he succeeded in corrupting the great artifact. Though Baal was slain by heroes, His damage was irreversible. The Archangel, Tyrael, shattered the corrupted World Stone to prevent the demons from using it. But the impact of the explosion destroyed Mount Arreat, leaving a massive crater in its wake. With nothing to protect, the barbarians grew aimless and divided. Now they are scattered through the north, among the ruins of their long history.
My dearest Jonathan, I hope this letter finds you well, and that life at Bastion's Keep is not too difficult. Arthur is growing up to be just like his father. I'm happy to hear you'll be back in time for his birthday, and I'll be praying every night for your safe return.
Transferring to Bastion's Keep is as dull as I imagined. The soldiers spend most of their time gambling. I guess this is what I should expect from this hollowed-out rock, a shadow of its former glory. Still, I am here to provide for Anna. I hope she is well. The captain looked grim today. A messenger came in the middle of the night. They know something they aren't telling us. Maybe coming here was a bigger mistake than I thought. The demons came at night, silent as death. The night watch was overrun in moments. Since then it's been an endless massacre. Those creatures, they're straight out of a nightmare. I don't think I'll be going home after all. I'm sorry, Anna.
Day 9. Young Commander Calderos believes that the demonic scourge will flee before a bloody show of righteous force. He intends to lead a charge from our fortifications tomorrow. Calderos can commit suicide by stupidity if he wants, but I'll be damned if I send my lads with him.
The men are losing hope. The demons' numbers seem endless. They come at all times, day or night, and no amount of casualties we inflict slows their advance. We need reinforcements. We need help.
Westmarch originally grew from the efforts of the great General Rakis to spread his religion beyond the realms of the East. Seized by the superstitions of the Zakarum faith, he drove his paladins relentlessly across the barbaric western lands, subduing the uncivilized tribes he found there. Ultimately, he became king of them all. Despite his superstitious views, Rakis ruled as a just and fair king, who was much loved by his people. He was succeeded by his son Corsic, who attempted to eradicate the barbarian tribes of the north. The line of Rakis was broken when Corsic's son Corellan died with no heirs. After Corellan's death, the crown passed to Justinian I, through a somewhat convoluted interpretation of Zakarum scripture. Thus began the Justinian dynasty. Seen as usurpers by many, the Justinians suffered nearly constant challenges to their rule. Finally, during the reign of Justinian III, a full-fledged insurrection broke out in the outlying region of Catullus. The Catullus insurrection was led by a woman known only as Tira, who claimed to be descended from the sons of Rakis. This uprising was immediately seen as a war of the common man against the nobles and their Zakarum strictures. During the very height of the conflict, Tira seized control of Westmarch and proclaimed herself empress. Tira's newly established rule over Westmarch did nothing to quell the civil war, which continued until she was driven mad and eventually killed by the plague. Cornelius, grandson of Justinian III and slave to the Zakarum faith, used this opening to crush the rebels once and for all and become the new king. The Zakarum church always held an unhealthy sway in Westmarch, even after the ascension of rulers more interested in power than religion. When the true nature of the faith was finally exposed, however, it completely eroded any influence the church had over civil affairs. And rightly so, I might add. Westmarch is currently ruled by Justinian IV. Originally thought to be a callow youth, Justinian came into his own in the years following his ascension to the throne. Rumors still abound about demonic activities surrounding his coronation, but I believe those are simply the product of overactive imaginations fueled by the ever-prevalent myths of the Zakarum.